Welcome back, my lovelies. I'm so grateful you've chosen to visit my channel. Your support means the world to me. Now, without further ado, let's get back to Tara. On the eve of our children's first birthday, Longor insisted on throwing a big bash. I pretended to agree and even consented to have Faglyra help me get the children ready. I still needed help managing them when we went out. I appreciated the help, even from her. I knew of Longor's visits to her chamber. I pretended not to notice the covetous glances she sent his way when she thought no one was looking. However, it worked to my advantage. If they were busy with each other, Longor wouldn't be paying much attention to me. Your Highness, we must hurry. Everyone is waiting for you and the children, Faglyra said. I had the children line up in front of me. I wanted them to look perfect. I had been up early brushing their scales, and it wasn't easy. They kept trying to get away from the brushes. All right, children. Today is a special day for all of you, and I want you to be on your best behavior, okay? Yes, Mother, they chimed. Faglyra led us out, and I brought the rear. When she neared the common room, she stepped out of the way to allow the kids and me to enter. We were greeted with roars and well wishes. On a raised platform, Longor, his father, and members of his so-called cabinet perched. There, before them, was a table heavy laden with food. On occasions like this, the food was roasted as a delicacy. Longor spared no expense to make this a memorable event. The children and I sat at a different platform. I encouraged the children to be themselves, and I knew that they would tire quickly. About halfway through the celebration, the children began to show signs of tiredness. I signaled to Longor, and he nodded. He graciously made the announcement that the children were retiring for the evening. The children and I filed out of the common room, and I insisted that Faglyra stay to enjoy the festivities. The sorceress was waiting for me when I entered my chamber. We had planned everything to the last detail. As soon as the children fell asleep, she placed a levitation spell on them. It was easier to propel them through the portal. It tore my heart out to leave Grindor behind, but I had no choice. When we reached the portal, the sorceress stopped and waited. I knew that she was trusting me to give her the secret to the enhanced dominance the dragons had. I nodded and told her. Again, the old dragon in the cave had saved the day. She knew that death was imminent and wanted to tell me the secret. The magic the males had was like an infection that was cured easily by a plant that was outlawed a long time ago. However, it grew freely in the human city, in their forests. I overheard Longor discuss the possibility of the humans discovering its use. That was the reason he allowed the raids. It was to find the plants to destroy them. The dragons doing his bidding not only destroyed the plants they found, but they also took pleasure in raiding the surrounding farmlands for sheep. I agreed to the banquet Longor wanted to have for the hatchlings for 2 reasons. First, I knew he'd go all out. His pride would only want the best. Roasted meat was a delicacy, and the meat was cooked over a fire with a special wood that enhanced the flavor of the meat. Secondly, I pretended to be interested in the food's preparation so I could add a special ingredient to the wood. All Longor's enhanced males were at the banquet, and they were all seated on the platform with him. They all ate the roasted meat. The special ingredient wouldn't harm any of the females, but all the males would be cured of their specialness. I took care of the males. All you must do is erect a boundary between Kolak and the dragons. I showed her how and explained that she merely must maintain it. It was the same spell I used to keep trespassers from my lair on Earth. Could it be that easy? She asked, amazed. Yes, it is, I answered. You could have told me that when we first met. I wouldn't have made a bargain with Longor and betrayed you. That's all water under the bridge, as they say on Earth. Now the portal, if you please. Like before, I watched her open the portal, and this time, I felt something different about it. I pushed my children through, and I followed them. The journey didn't take long, and we appeared not too far from my lair. The minute we touched ground, I went on high alert. The lair seemed untouched, and only after I had inspected everything did I release the children from the levitation spell. I laid them gently on my furs, and then did what I wanted to do for so long. I laughed. I hadn't done so in a long time, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I vowed to be punctual about renewing my spell. I will make sure my daughters follow the ritual also. When they awoke, they explored the cavern and asked so many questions. I answered as truthfully as I could, and then I took them to the chamber holding my treasures. One thing the sorceress helped me with was the transformation spell. I performed it on myself, and then on my daughters. When they looked down at themselves, they marveled and weren't upset. They were still babies, really, and I knew that as they grew older, they would have more questions. After I put them down for their naps, I took enough money from my treasury and went shopping in town. I bought enough clothing for the girls to last until they were old enough to shop for themselves. Then I prepared storage space for their clothes. For a year, I educated them on this world. I taught them to speak English, and the television did the rest. They learned as much as I could teach them. The time came for us to leave the cavern. I was nervous, but optimistic. The last thing I did was reinforce the wards, and then the girls and I traveled by train to New York. I immediately found us a suitable apartment miraculously in the same building I'd lived before. I couldn't believe that 6 years had passed. My triplets were adorable, and I quickly enrolled them in school and then went job hunting. I had access to my money in the lair, but I genuinely enjoyed earning it. My luck continued to hold when I applied at the library and got hired for my old position. The friends I'd left behind were curious, and when I introduced my daughters to them, they were enamored. One girlfriend insisted that I was holding out on them, that I had a secret love they didn't know about. I let them believe that my marriage had ended and that I had custody of my children and left it at that. There weren't always dragons in this world, but now there were 4. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe. It inspires me to bring you more stories. Please stay tuned for another journey into the world of fantasy, myths, and lore.